The only thing bigger than Terry Kirkham's personality is his business, Global Auctioneers and Valuers Group. Terry has owned this firm since 1993. And for those playing at home, that is a very long time. They specialise in machinery, motor vehicle, office equipment and furniture, online auctions and consultancy. Please visit them at www.globalauctioneers.com.
I sponsor, helping businesses get results when sponsoring sporting clubs. Download the app for information on how to raise money for your team.
Bank of Queensland New Farm, specialising in property purchases and refinances. You'll get great rates and exceptional service and long-term banking relationships.
Welcome to the Subs Bench, the second edition of the special shows that we've got. This is the Coaches Roundtable, and we're joined today by Graham Ross, Rick Coghlan, Sam Saif and Grae Piddick. So thanks for joining us, lads.
Pleasure to be here.
I think we'll start off. First memories of football, playing, coaching, watching. I suppose we'll start with you, Sam. Go chronological.
Memories were just as far back as I can remember. You just had in England, you just had a ball. So virtually from walking, everybody in the street played football. That was it, because there were no cars.
And that was in Sheffield, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm a bit older than the rest, so you played in the street.
United or Wednesday?
I'm a Wednesday fan, but I worked at United for 16 years.
Heroes growing up?
I didn't have heroes as players. Probably the only one, in my opinion, I think he's the best player that's ever graced this planet, and that was Georgie Best. Yeah. No, the only player I know that could play with 2 feet when he wanted to. He retired at 23. Yeah. I think he was 23. And he'd already won the Player of the Year in Europe twice, I think. So yeah, he'd be one. Although I just admired him. I won't say heroes, players. Coaches is a different thing.
Yeah. Rossi?
Well, I was a country kid, so I was from Townsville, born in Townsville, so it's a rugby league town, still is. So you used to sort of hide the fact that you played soccer up there. But from a young age, I guess my dad was into football, Scottish background, so it was match of the day, and like a lot of us, and playing with mates in the park, and I played on the field as a striker until I was about 14, and then goalkeeper broke his leg in a rep game, and because I was the youngest in the street, they used to chuck me in between two trees and smash balls at me, the rest of the lads in the street. So I had a bit of an idea about being in goals, so I stuck my hand up this day and then never got out, unfortunately. Yeah. So yeah. Did you follow a team when you were a kid, or like? My dad was a Man U fan, so but the family heritage is Rangers, so I've been a Rangers man my whole life. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, but the match of the day, you couldn't get much Scottish football back then. So Dad followed Man U, and he's a big Joe Jordan fan. So so it was wanted me to be a striker. So I think he was bitterly disappointed when I got stuck in goals. So was I, actually. That's why my son never got a chance to go on goals. So yeah, Grae?
Yeah, my boys at the moment, they all fancy themselves in goals, and I just kept no, not yet.
Good way to prolong the career, if nothing else.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but they're only like 7 and 9, so you've got to be a bit more on the field yet. Learn to kick first. So, but I just grew up at home. We had a Scottish neighbour who gave me my first kit. So it was the old horizontal stripe Scotland jersey and shorts. Yeah. and just playing in the backyard with the brothers and the next door neighbour. So that was in Brisbane, and just went on to Redlands from there. So 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Heroes, club you followed? Or?
Heroes, a Liverpool fan. So in the early days, it was and that was from my father. John Barnes was a big one. Yeah, I love Jamie Redknapp as well. And then I remember my first ever tournament I watched on TV. I remember was the '88 Euros. Yeah. And I just fell in love with Holland. Just
that Van Basten's volley, was it?
Yeah, Van Basten, Hullet. Yeah. So I sort of then started following them as well, the Dutch team as a result, because I just loved the whole crowd was orange, no other reason. And then kind of they all played for AC Milan back then, so it was the Italian football. So they were sort of my two teams.
Milan dominated at that time, didn't they? Yeah. Superb team.
We had Baresi, didn't they?
Yeah.
Maldini was coming through. Yeah, Maldini was playing at that point. 20 years later, he was still playing. Yeah. Rick, yourself?
Yeah, I think much the same. I think I've got photos from my mum and dad where I've 4 years old playing at under fives, and it's just kind of, as Sam was saying, it's a religion. You kind of just have football from day one. I grew up in a town called Harlow in Essex, so my first memories are playing local football there, and I guess trying to push through and playing Essex County, and they're my real childhood memories of football. For as long as I can remember, having a ball at feet.
Essex,
don't know
West
that
Ham
against him.
Yeah, West Ham, Tottenham, that sort of area. My old man's from Pimlico, so I was a Chelsea fan because he was a Chelsea fan, and just kind of got drilled into me that I have to be a Chelsea. So
it's worked out well in the end.
It has, not too bad. Not too bad.
When did you first start moving into coaching, and was coaching something that, as a player, you thought, I'll end up as a coach? Some players, they know that down the track, they see things on a pitch and they think, right, well, this is where I'll end up being. And some people, you get to the end of the career and think, can't play anymore, I might as well put my hand up for coaching. What about yourself, Sam?
I got into coaching. I was playing non-league football back home, which were in them days Northern Prem, which is like Conference North and South now. And I used to think, I'd be sat half-time team talk, and I used to think they're talking absolute BS, just crap. And I remember talking to a guy who worked at Clyde Baker, they called him, at Sheffield Wednesday. He says, why don't you do coaching? I said, what are you on about? He says, go and take your coaching badges. And I think they were about 28 then. So in them days it was called a prelim. So I went and did that. And then through family, I knew Howard Wilkinson, and he invited me down to Sheffield Wednesday. And they were just starting them with like under 16s, 15s. And that was my club Wednesday. Yeah. And then I were only standing watching, and then I met David Bassett, and he invited me down and become a real personal friend. And he says, come down and start coaching. And I learnt more off him than anybody. And then I went and took my full badge, I think 94 I think. Yeah. Well, it was called full badge then. UEFA come in 2001. Yeah. And that's how I got into coaching, and then went into delivering coaches. And my mentor was a guy called Dick Bate, who was probably one of the top 3 in the world. He worked for FA and FIFA, and he taught me all sorts. My passion is coach education. Yeah. And I ended up working for FA, working for PFA, counties, before I come here. In Sheffield United, I was full time, and I loved it. And that's how I got into coaching, because I always feel as though I want to give something back to the sport I love, and coaching's teaching. And that's how I got into it, really. Yeah. And it is a passion of mine, coach education.
Yeah. Rossi?
Mine's probably a lot different to that. So obviously being a goalkeeper, I never listened to a team talk in my life, in my whole career. I just sit there, I don't need to listen to what they're doing, I just worry about me. So, and it was only really towards the end of my career that I thought, shit, you know, if I want to get into something after football, I better start listening and maybe start looking at some of these sessions, you know, because keepers are off doing their own thing. So I had no clue about it. So after when I was still playing, and then after I finished playing, I you know, had a pretty strong goalkeeping academy. So that was always my passion, and I thought that was always the way I would go. And in those days, there was no courses around goalkeeper coaching, so I was always pushing Football Queensland, saying, I'm not going to come and do one of your courses until you get a goalkeeper specific one. And anyway, I was playing for Mount Gravatt at those days, and pretty much, you know, ready to retire. And they asked me, they weren't going that well, and they asked me if I'd be player coach that season. And I sort of thought about it, and wasn't really what I wanted to do at the time. And then I took it on and really had no idea what I was doing. I was just a motivator, you know, and the boys were, it's probably much the same now, boys were too scared to lose, you know. So, and we went on a run, and and I started to enjoy it, and that's where it's, you know, it stemmed from really. Yeah. So
I was going to say, like, how'd you go from being a keeper saying, like, I don't really care too much about what's going on over there, to coaching a team of, like, a whole football team? Like, how?
Yeah, I guess I was lucky because I was playing in that side, and I was, you know, captain of the side. So, and I was an older player. So
you already had that respect.
The players had that respect for me. So, so I was lucky in that point that they were going to listen to me straight away. So, and then we just bluffed my way through really. Yeah. And luckily, you know, I got some decent players in around me, and then the following season we had a really good season, and you know, much like the run that Power's having now, that season we conceded 9, didn't lose a game, won the grand final, premierships, all that sort of stuff, and it just catapulted my, you know, coaching career from there, I guess. And but I still have the passion for the goalkeeping, and you know, when there's a, you know, little goalkeeping session, I still like to float over and have a little look, and so. So one day I might float back into that area as well. Who knows? Yeah.
When you go across, you got a goalkeeper coach at the club?
Yes. Yeah.
If you go across, do you sometimes see things in the session and think,
yeah,
I'd do that differently?
Yeah. Well, I had big Billy Lumley in last night, and I pulled him aside and told him what I needed all 3 keepers to work on. You know, and specifically, told him that, you know, So from footwork to starting positions, everything, just basically told him, So I definitely will. And, you know, assistant coaches, I'll say something about the keeper, and they'll sort of go, we had no idea what you're talking about, you know. So I've always, you know, probably a little bit harder on the keepers when, you know, something goes in and, you know, they know that I know. Yeah. So, but that's where it started, mate, and it's just flown along from there. Yeah. So,
Rick?
Real different, I think, to certainly Sam and Rossi there. You know, I think I played all my life, but to no great level. I think, you know, having played as a schoolboy in that county kind of, which is obviously kind of equivalent to Queensland rep, and not really pushing on from there. And I think the older I got, the less motivated and passionate about playing I got, other distractions in life and all that sort of stuff. And then there was probably a good stage of kind of 19 to 24 where I probably didn't even touch a ball. I would watch and still love the game, but I just didn't play and I wasn't involved. And I think for whatever reason, around 24, 25, I just missed football. So I kind of fell into coaching just as a way to get back. And I just ended up kind of coaching little kids, and with no real end goal in sight, just ended up falling into it just to do something. I think quite quickly I realised I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being back with the ball at my feet and being around players and socialising and games, and I think that kind of stirred the hunger. And I think any misfortunes or any kind of enthusiasm I had as a player when I was younger definitely come back in abundance as a coach. And really quickly I just kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to give this everything. You know, I think I'm half decent at it, and I'm going to give it a biggest crack I can to go as far as I can. And so it turned from not kicking a ball to just a hobby to then actually going, okay, I'm all in quite quickly, really quickly. And from there I was kind of went on the pathway and coaching courses, and kind of climb the ladder.
That's an interesting story, because like most players will go into coaching as something to keep them involved in the game when they're done playing, as opposed to this is something I want to do now and not wait until, you know, I want to do this instead.
It's a strange one. It was one, for whatever reason, I just felt the urge that I just missed football, and then you know, kind of cultivated back into it and went on the pathway of coaching. And I think doing my C licence, you know, on Pat Hedges was one of the deliveries, so people around Queensland. I think my first gig was under 13s at Palm Beach, and Gray, you would have been the head coach then. So, you know, to have come up from along that and now to be coaching against these guys is brilliant, you know, it's fantastic.
Or yourself, Graham?
Yeah, I think I started coaching while I was still playing, but I think some of that stemmed. I didn't think I would, to be honest. I never thought I'd be a coach at all, actually. I thought I'd just play forever.
Why was that? Just because you thought?
I was wanting to play.
Never a second thought.
No, not really. And then I had initially anyway, I had quite a few injuries. So I had years where I didn't play at all because I was injured, you know, 18-month injuries and things like that. And mates of mine who weren't sort of playing senior football anymore anyway, even though they were young and in early 20s, were coaching junior teams. So I sort of just got involved for something to do. And then, as I sort of got older and I was back playing again, and as a senior player in a team, I still didn't think I'd be a coach, but I sort of took on the senior role, and that sort of led to, you know, being a player assistant coach, and like you were saying, with a goalkeeper coach. Like, you know, I played at Logan for a few years when Nick was coaching, and initially I was just going to come in and help him coach, and then I was like, it was a lower division when Logan started. I was like, well, actually, you know, I've had a look. I might keep playing actually, which is great for me because I'd been injured and it was a lower level, and when I was able to come back up, and I used to think, Nick, he's a goalkeeper. What the hell does he know about coaching? You know. He's a good mate of mine, so I'd be like, always be stepping in. No, we're not doing that, Nick. We're doing this or we're doing that. But he was a good friend of mine, obviously.
Didn't realise he was a keeper.
Hey?
I didn't realise he was a keeper.
Neither did I, actually. I
he was a goalkeeper. I've known him for 30 years. We played juniors. He was a keeper back then. He broke his leg a few times and things like that. So that sort of stopped him from playing. But he was a keeper. Yeah.
It is always a tricky one as a keeper, and when I first started coaching, I sort of always had that in the back of my mind. Are they going to take it from a keeper, So now, luckily, I've been around long enough. Half my team wouldn't even know I was a goalkeeper now. But it's a tough one to start with because I think, what would he know?
Yeah, exactly. And Nick had done a lot of junior coaching at that stage as well, so it sort of was already embedded. But just from there, then I thought, might get into coaching and finished playing, and I was living on the coast and finished playing senior football anyway, and then I thought, the NPL had started, first year of the NPL, I thought I might still play. Went down to Palm Beach, said, I want to coach. They didn't know me from a bar of soap, and Frenchie sort of said, we've got one junior team, you can coach the under 15s. Yeah, fine, I'll do that. And I thought I might still play. I started training, but I got injured again, and then all of a sudden there was an under 20s comp. Do you want to coach the under 20s as well? Yeah, okay, why not? And then halfway through the year, the first team coach got the flick, and so I think they'd only won one game. And Palm Beach had a pretty good reputation previously in statewide competitions, so they sort of didn't like that. And they said to me, I was coaching the 20s and the under 15s, and they just said, well, you want to coach the first team? Yeah, of course I do. I said, okay, you've got 2 matches. I said, it's a team 2 matches, and then we'll decide after that. Okay. Who are playing next? Oh, Brisbane Strikers. Yeah, best team in the comp at the time. Okay. So lucky enough that we won next couple of matches. All right, you can have the team for the rest of the year. And was definitely a struggle. I really didn't know what I was doing, to be fair, and luckily then the next year built a better team. Some of those younger ones come through, and we won the comp, and the rest is sort of history from that. So
you kind of fell into it in a way.
Sorry?
You kind of fell into it.
Yeah, kind of fell into the senior coaching. Yeah, I mean, I was coaching juniors and enjoying that, but the actual senior coaching. But I think once I had the taste of juniors, I thought, well, yeah, definitely wanted to. But at the time, I still wanted to play. I thought I still had a few more years left in me, to be honest. And I always tell I've got a few older lads now, like, you know, don't stop. Yeah. Best thing in the world for me was still playing. You can always coach on the side, or you can coach afterwards, but if you want to play and you can still play, keep doing it. You know, it was a good opportunity for me, and it worked out really well pretty quick, so just kick on from there.
I think that's you touched upon it earlier on, Dust. Like, I probably always knew that I would like to stay involved, but for me it was just being around the lads, like the camaraderie.
I was going to say, yeah.
I used to like being on the bench because, and it sounds, I shouldn't really say that because my players will kind of hear it and that, but I just used to like sitting on the bench and taking the piss when the lads made mistakes and have a bit of crack, because some of the better lads were subs. So you knew, like, if say Gaz Pearson and Richo were on the bench, you'd be like, oh, that's going to be a good one today. But I would see things on the pitch and think, what's he doing? Like, but more than anything, it's to stay in the dressing room. You just want to be around the lads. Like,
and that's definitely what it is. I think we can all probably resonate with that, because it's the closest thing to playing when you can't play anymore. You know, you still have that game day feeling. You still have the banter around the team, and you know, I still love game day. You know, I'm not a fan of the training week. If I'm honest, you know, I love game day. You know, and you know, for me, the training week is about the banter with the boys, you know, and just walking around while they're warming up and just taking the piss out of whoever, you know, and still having that feeling that you're part of the team environment. And, you know, there's nothing better than coming in after a win in the dressing room with your boys and having a sing, you know. So it's as close as you can get to playing the game, you know. So
I think mine's probably the opposite to that. I think because I wouldn't have had a prolonged senior career. It wasn't really driven by wanting to get back to in and around the senior environment. Mine was, I think, as soon as I started getting a taste of coaching and enjoying it, and then it was probably during the year under 13s at Palm Beach is when I went into the state program, and I was under Benny Khan, and it was then I really started, I guess, thinking about the game and watching session design, and I'd sit on the hill then and start watching Gray deliver his, and I really started just thinking about coaching and just thinking, okay, how can I run really good sessions and design, deliver, you know, excellent sessions. And I think that's the real bug that got me just to keep churning away, just to become the. I love the.
There's definitely two different training. Coaches. I think there's coaches that coach during the week and love that, and then coaches that love the game day.
They tend to be
definitely a game day.
Tend to be assistant coaches that take sessions, deal with players, and sort of take a back seat on game day. But that's the thing. Like I look at when my playing days are done, and I'd love to stay involved, but without the pressure of being a head coach. So it's like, maybe I'll just be a manager or something, and, you know, just have a bit of banter with the boys. But I love like you said, Rossi, like, you're more about game day. Like, I love the training week because it's getting around the boys without the pressure of game day. Like, I still love game day, don't get me wrong, but coming in on a Tuesday and Thursday.
Players will, because there's no pressure on a player at training week. The pressure's on us to deliver something quality every week, you know, and that's hard over, you know, we're in for 10 months of the year, let's be honest, you know, so over 10 months, you know, trying to keep it quality and it's not easy.
All the while trying to ensure results are still where they need to be.
And making sure boys are buying into the crap you're feeding them, you know.
And if you're honest, we're in for 10 months, but we're in for 12. There's no off season when you're a coach. There's no off season when you're a player.
You're straight into it.
But
that's what I said. Probably manager for me.
The first month is meetings with players to get them to re-sign, and the next month is getting players for next season, and it's never ending. Like so. But just touching on that as well. For me, there's two types of coach. There's the coach who loves design, putting a session on, seeing the outcome and this, that and the other. Then there's the man manager. Like me personally, I can't think of anything worse than designing sessions and putting it on. It's just not, I just don't enjoy the coaching. Philpa does. Jody Manning does. They live for it. Absolutely, like they'll put a session together, send it through, and I'll be like, looks good, guys. But they're full on buzz off, this'll work, this'll. I just like giving team talks, speaking to lads who've got problems, having a bit of banter with the lads on the training ground.
So important though.
And I'll come up to it later on, but having the right people around you, someone who complements what you do. I know that, I mean, yourself and Paul Edwards were together for a long time.
10 years?
Yeah.
No, Toowoomba, started in Toowoomba.
And the success that you've had, would you have had the success without Paul? Or was...
Paul,
It just worked.
no, to be fair to Paul, Paul Edwards would be, with knowledge that I've had all over, he would be probably top 5 coaches that I've seen in Australia by miles.
Yeah.
And he's never been offered a first team job, which astounds me, because he's far better than me at organisation stuff, and he's a really good coach. And the other one who's a really good coach is Billy Ingledew.
Yeah.
And that's why we were successful. It wasn't me, it was the team. And the team is from Terry, who was his manager, right through.
Yeah.
We were a team.
Yeah.
We used to beat what I would call teams that far better players than us, but we had a better team.
Yeah. Togetherness and
Togetherness.
organisation.
But players played for you, Sam. You know, you're a good leader. Players wanted to win for you, and that's a big thing in coaching, I think.
Yeah, they wanted to win for themselves. What I believe is coaching, if you rub coaching out, it's teaching. So I'm a coach that likes seeing people develop. So it's like developing from times table to algebra and things like that. So I'd tell them what to do in possession, out of possession. They've got to go and do it. I can only tell them. And they got just like Trenny and Reid, who I had from when I first come in 2006. Paul McCullough, probably the best player I've ever seen, 2-footed player. They all said he was fat, he couldn't run, no one ever got past him. But they knew what to do in possession, out of possession. I'm not stupid. If we were a middle of the table team, most of them players would have gone.
Yeah.
But because we were successful and we had respect, I know every year, Mooney would be phoning them up, you'd be phoning them up, Olympic would be phoning, none of them left. None of them. And that's because they had that togetherness.
Yeah.
And we were successful. And they were all offered, they all tell me, oh, so-and-so's room, I'm going to talk to him. And because we had respect for each other. And that is the most important thing as a coach, respect for your players.
Yeah.
And as I know coaches that turn around and say, well, if you don't train, you don't play. Well, I don't believe in that philosophy. Me, your family's first, your job's second, and then football, because it's amateur. And I'll give you just one, like when Trent Clolo had his baby, he had a baby, I said, I don't want to see you for 3 weeks. Go and look after your wife. But I want to play on Saturday, so I says, you can play on Saturday, but you're not training. And he wanted to train, I said, no, you look after your wife and your baby. And that come back to me tenfold, because I looked after him. Same with Sasha Radulovic. Sasha Radulovic had a young boy that went very well. And I just said, you turn up when you turn up. He says, but I want to play. I said, well, if you don't train, that's fine. If you want to play on Saturday, that's fine. So coaching for me is respect. And the players will tell you if you're a good coach. And as people say, he's a good coach, or he's shit, he don't know what he's talking about. Yeah. The players will tell you. They'll tell other players that he's either good or he's rubbish. You yourself might think you're brilliant, but the players might think you're shit.
Do you think that would be more difficult to get away with these days as opposed to 10 years ago, when you've got that team together who'd been together for a while and they're adults and they can respect that, as opposed to 18, 19-year-olds coming through now looking at that and thinking, well, that's not right?
There were a lot of, we only had about 5 or 6 of them players that were there all the time. Players drifted in, players drifted out. But everybody in that team, if one dropped out, the next one coming in knew his roles and responsibilities in possession, out of possession.
And see, that's, as a player, that's the sort of environment I want to be in.
But that's teaching again.
Yeah.
It's not. Anybody can put a session on. It's the finer details. It's the little bits you're teaching them.
Yeah.
So anybody can put a session on. It's easy. But it's what you're teaching that player, and then players, and us, everybody used to have their own opinions about Wolves, which was garbage, but everybody wanted to sign our players.
Well, that's the thing as well, and as you say, everyone had their opinion about Wolves during that period, but you were winning titles, and it's like, well, say what you want to say. We've got the trophies in the cabinet.
Well, I'll flip it on its head. Not everybody. The percentage of coaches are disrespect us, right? They got all year to prepare to beat us, one game, and they get belted. So what's that say about them as a coach? You know what I mean? They rubbished us, said we were rubbish. They've got all year to beat us.
For coaches to say, you know, they're one-dimensional, they'll do this, they'll do that, well, it's got to be easier to prepare for that if that's the case, and you still lose.
One dimension, I'll give you a thing then. You've got Sasha Radulovic, up front. If he headed the ball 3 times in a season, you were lucky. Kado, 5'6". They're our 2 forwards.
People couldn't stop him.
Well, what I'm saying to you is it didn't go in the air, it went to the feet. But what we did, we passed it forward quick.
Yeah.
Quick, and I mean quick, under control.
Which was misconstrued as direct, they go direct.
Well, there you go. And as you don't score 100 goals by booting it and chasing it.
Yeah.
Sasha Radulovic would have walked off upfield.
Yeah, and we talk, and we even spoke about this afternoon with the referees, or last week, sorry Ben, with the referees about the best players that even they had refereed and seen, and Sasha comes up in that conversation every single time.
No, he was just off the planet.
Yeah.
Dan, all I said to him was, go on there, Sasha, and do whatever you want.
Yeah. Because, and as someone who plays against him, like, you know what he's looking to do, but you can't stop it from happening, and every single time he gets onto his left peg and he delivers like a perfect pill, and it's like, mate, yeah, you're a different class.
The one thing I will say about that team, when you were dominating, I was probably the league or 2 leagues below. So we're watching you win leagues, and Lions are up there, and Power, we talked about this earlier, Power used to come strong towards the end. They always started slow and then came strong. But when I've spoke to Mooney, we were talking about this when he knew that this particular group was coming together, and I said, look, that Lions, Wolves, Power, that group, that BPL at that point was really strong. 3 real strong teams.
You got East, Rochdale.
That's what we're saying earlier.
Teams who were still pushing.
Talking about East, where we sort of underachieved, but you look at the teams that we were competing with.
But one thing Mooney always said, he said, you know, people always said Wolves were direct, they were this or that. He says they were just really tough to play against. And you'd probably agree with that.
Yeah. You know, in the big games they would always beat us. You know, grand finals and beat us.
I won't say we always.
We might have rolled you once, I think, Sam, but we couldn't compete with you. You know, like you say, the speed of transition. You know, just always caught us out. You know, so and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I ever said they just kick it long. You know, there was always a purpose to it, and I've had teams with lesser ability since, and that I'll try and play very similar because, you know, I just think you just don't want to dwell on the ball in your own half. Let's get it over halfway as quick as possible.
As well, like you shift the ball quickly in transition and you hit a bloke like Trent Kalulo. It's like you can't get a better bloke on the ball when teams are trying to turn around and defend.
He developed as when I had him into it, he was a shy boy. He didn't realise what he'd got. He'd got everything, Trenny, everything, but he just couldn't transfer it on a field, and we just pushed him and pushed him and pushed him, and he became probably the most wanted player in thing. And the other one who come, Riedo, nobody wanted him, and that guy probably worked harder than anybody else at his game, and he's probably now won more medals than any other player.
He'll be the most decorated player in
In
Queensland.
20 years, he was phenomenal at the end.
When we talk about players you want going into a game that you need to win, like he comes up a lot. Yeah.
Well, Rado, and as young kids, Rado, he was a workhorse in that middle, but he could put him centre back, right back, left back, goalkeeper, and he was just brilliant.
Yeah.
And he didn't get the recognition. He got the recognition when he virtually went to another club, which were Lions. But he played like that for us for years. But he was just the win mentality that they all had. We had players come to our training was faster and harder than games. And that's because that's how you play.
Yeah.
And players come and they couldn't deal with it. Yeah. They just could not deal with training.
Intimidation-wise, like they were tough, you know. If
they just
straight away they'd have 4 players running at one of your players if there was a, you know, over the top tackle or Riedo would be running at the referee and they'd all be surrounding them and they were just intimidation-wise, young boys couldn't handle it, you know. So and defensively they were just very hard.
Knowles was a good player as well, wasn't he? Knowlesy.
There were 2 Wolves teams. There's one that scored 104 goals, which I don't think will ever be beat, in my opinion, in a season. And that's when we had Stefan and Pat.
Yeah.
And Pat, we scored 100 odd goals at centre back, but we had 3 at top 5 goal scorers.
No one could deal with him at the back post, Pat Hopkins.
No.
And he went to be a pro. Pat McMahon went to be a pro. Stefan went to be a pro. Yeah. All played in Europe, but the Roar didn't want to have a look at him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which, for me, is strange. And Trenny and all them learnt off that. And then you've got the other Wolves team, which were a machine at the end.
Yeah.
They were a machine. You could kick them, they'd kick you back. They could play football, they'd outplay you. You could kick it long and they'd kick it long further. Whatever you did against that team, that were a machine.
Yeah. Multiple ways
they were a machine. The other one was just an attacking. They just destroyed. They were that good. I got them from America and they were all pros and they've all been pros. And I was at top level in Sweden, 2 of them. One in Denmark, not at the top, and one in Germany. And that's how good they were.
Yeah.
There's our argument around bringing visa players in, you know, only having a couple.
Yeah.
Just look at, you know, the likes of Trent Clulo, learned his trade off quality players, you know.
Yeah, he learned it.
Well, and we're learning off average local players.
I spoke to Sasha the other week and I says, you should still be playing. And he's fit. Sasha, he does yoga, Pilates, he is as fit as anything. He said, I'd love to play. He says, but the new rules in MPL, he can't play. Because if you sign an old player who's played, and it's stupid because these young guns that you're all dealing with should be learning. Trent ain't learnt so much, or a lot of players, off Sasha.
Yeah.
How he played, what he did, his movement.
There's a BPL team that'll take Sasha if you speak to him.
Yeah, but he should be playing at top level.
I know he should. He should. He's class, man.
There's an NPL team that'll take Sasha, don't worry.
I'll always say he's easily one of the best that I've ever played against. And you're dead right. There's kids or there's younger players missing out now because he can't get involved.
Well, there's other players like him, not just him. There's other players that are like him. But you get penalised if you sign players over a certain age, which is, for me, if you want to develop players, why are you penalising this group of players that are going to educate them in first team football? It's just nuts to me. It really is. They talk about player development, but we're getting rid of that knowledge and expertise, and off you go, learn on your own. It's just, that's not player development.
Yeah.
But
look at the squad you had at Holland Park, you know.
Yeah.
You know, those quality pros that you brought in, and
I wouldn't have been
those
able to
younger
take,
players would have learnt so much.
The starting 11 in that Holland Park team, there was 1 Australian, and all the others were effectively visa players. So if you'd have gone into the MPL or QPL at that point, 8 of them would have had to go.
Yeah, you just wouldn't have been able to do it. Yeah.
So you say that people always forget that team, the Wolves team.
Yeah.
Every one of them were Australian.
Yeah.
Or permanent resident.
Yeah.
Every one of them. So I know they talk about we had visa players in. We had to because the locals were just demanding stupid money for being average players. So I could get them cheaper and better quality.
The Holland Park team, it didn't cost much to put together at all. They just want to live in Australia. You know, we had Dan Smith that come from the EPL, played English Premier League, and he came across and he said, I don't want paid, so I just want to live in Australia. So for 2 years he played for free. You know, which worked out well for us. But we talked about the fantastic Wolves team, you know, back in the day. Any
No, it was all good teams. I know we won things, but the Lions were a top side. East were a top side. It wasn't only any of them teams could have beat. I know we might have won 1-0, 2, but they were hell of a game. All of them. They were top draw teams.
Which what I'm leading into is there any teams or any grounds that you ever went to that you really look forward to going to? One, because you had a good record there. Two, because you just knew you're up for it. You know, so playing against the Wolves teams, the Lions teams, the Power teams. Conversely, any teams that you don't have a good record, you never liked playing against. You never liked going to these grounds.
I never had a good record against City. You know, Lions City was obviously a big one. You know, so ex-National League clubs. So, and I never had a good record against City when I played against them either. You know, and Royce actually, isn't he supposed to be here, the little shit? Royce did my knee actually at City. So he was playing for City, I was playing for Rochdale. So yeah, I always had something about Brisbane City, but it was always a tough one. But yeah, you know, going in those early days, going to Wolves was always exciting. It's going to be a big game, big crowd, good players. It's going to be end to end. It's going to be entertaining, and you know, for me, I still see it as it's entertainment. You know, I want to entertain people. You know, if we win 6-5, then great for me. You know, I want it to be entertaining, and I want fans to go, what a battle that was, you know, and what a game, and we saw goals, and it had everything, you know. So, and that was always the case with the Wolves, and then, you know, obviously with Lions down the track, it became sort of Peninsula. You know, was the rival when Mooney and McNichol was there, and you know, we'd go there, we'd win some, we'd lose some, and you know, again they rolled me on a grand final day, and did me well. So yeah, that was probably the ones through that era, and obviously Rochdale was always a big club back then as well. So and good atmosphere to go there, and but they were probably the big ones.
What about yourself, Rick? I know you've it's relatively new to it.
I think it's difficult because obviously I've only now got 2 years under my belt here in Queensland as a head coach. So that's a hard one. I think in terms of last season, Rochdale was certainly. There's a good taste of that rivalry. You know, coming into Logan, I'd been told you know, this is a good rivalry, a good derby between Logan and Rochdale.
There were a couple of good games too.
Yeah, some cracking games, and I think the first one was a bit of a dead heat. It was a 0-0 draw.
Yeah,
he just parked the bus, but
I think I missed a header from about the penalty spot as well. So obviously I'm not all about headers, but I probably should have put that one away.
That was that one. But the one that we could have won the league on. That was a really enjoyable game, not the result obviously, but it was a great atmosphere and a massive derby between the two teams. I don't think this year we've had much of a rivalry of anyone. We're just kind of going about our business, but yeah, I think hopefully maybe in 5 years I can probably answer that one a bit better.
Grae?
Yeah, it's
obviously, well, Gold Coast derbies.
Yeah.
That not any of us really have experienced, but you've experienced a couple now.
I've experienced a few now, obviously being on both teams. So I think, but it's hard because I've coached both teams to say, I don't like going there or don't want to go there. But it's probably, I'm just trying to think, most of the teams I've played against so far as a coach, only in the NPL anyways, we've had pretty good records, but probably didn't really like, particularly in the early days, going to Brisbane Strikers. They're always tough at their home ground. So that was always a tough one. And then Olympic was probably the other one that I've played against a fair bit. Olympic away is always a tough match. I'm just trying. Might have only won once there away from home anyway. So they're probably the big ones that from my end, from a coaching, where we've played against a fair bit. A lot of the other teams, in the NPL have chopped and changed, so there's not a huge rivalry with other teams at the moment anyway. Power, we've only played them for a couple of seasons, but...
You've kind of got the wood over us though, as a coach.
Yeah, well, I think, at home, in home matches, it was always tough to go to Power. I think, I remember in 2019, we're in front that day and fell away, and Jamunde, rocket from Jamunde and that, and so after that I think we had the wood on us, it's an interesting one. Hopefully it stays that way and there's not too many teams, but we'll see what happens in the next few years. Lions is the other one. It's always tough to go to Lions. No matter sort of what level, Lions are always right up the top and always tough at home.
Have you found it more or less difficult, or like neither, like the last few years, as opposed to when you first came into that NPL gig, the teams that weren't so much at the top, the teams that were battling middle or bottom of the table, to go to their places and to take
the league got stronger?
Yeah, I think the league's got stronger overall, particularly with Lions, Power coming in, definitely. I think that's certainly added to it, and some of the teams coming out, and I think obviously that'll probably happen a bit more with 3 teams getting relegated and 1 going up. Always seem to have a little bit of trouble, even when I've had teams right up the top at Moreton Bay as well. I've had some good wins there, but it's always been a bit tough as well. So that was another one. You always just, things don't seem to go well when you go to Moreton Bay.
You look at them now, and they're on the brink of that top 4 as well.
So
even them, same as Logan and East, and I mean East are a couple of points astray, but still not that far off even. Like
we're 6 off them.
We should jump this weekend, I think.
It's a pretty strong middle of the table. Like there's no real gimmies there. Like it's.
Yeah, I think that mid-table region, all the teams are fairly similar. It's just on the day, which team, do you make a mistake, or does a goalkeeper have a blinder, or do you miss a penalty, things like that. So I think that mid-table group, all those teams are pretty capable. They're looking for that consistency to be a top 4.
You've even got Lions mid-table now, like.
I think I still think they'll probably push. I'll probably expect them to maybe still push up. Just depends on how they go.
Definitely quality.
We're all probably trying to close the gap on the top 4.
It's a consistency. Being out like a Power, just week in, week out, like similar to
just
Wolves. Every week, get it done.
The team that has the wood over us is Wanderers. We've now played them 3 times, once in pre-season, twice in the league, and beaten us 3 times. So for a team that's in our pack, we can't seem to get it done against them. So it's a good battle in that middle ground.
As coaches, you know how some styles just match up well. Wanderers match up really well against you. They're physical. They're in your face. They put the ball in behind where you don't want it, and I think that doesn't suit your team and the way you play. So I'm not surprised to hear they've won the 3.
It's funny. It's like tying that form in, because Wanderers are a team who've struggled against the likes of Capalaba, but then make things difficult for Logan. Like it's
it's that middle pack Gray's talking about. I think Gold Coast United beat Sunny Coast Wanderers 5-1. We obviously got over Gold Coast United 3-2, but we can't get over Sunny Coast Wanderers, and we get a draw out of Moreton Bay, and we get over East, but East beat Olympic.
Do well against the better sides, and the sides that want to play, we tend to do
did well
okay.
against us.
Yeah, we did. And
on another day, you beat us.
Drew with Lions. We
I think that
beat Olympic.
That win over Olympic.
Knights,
That win over Olympic was one of the better performances the whole season so far. I think just the way that you managed that game and played to your strengths, but really nailed them on where they were weak.
I think a few clubs sort of worked them out in that early period, and they've obviously changed things now, so it's a little bit trickier. But it's I think those teams down that pack, the ones that sit in that deep block, you know, it's difficult to break down if you haven't got the quality. The ones up the top 4 that want to play, you know, you can compete if you've got decent players, you know.
We've had power at home. It's probably our best performance in the year and a half since I've been there. It was, we just decided that we weren't going to do that. We couldn't do that against power, so we just went toe to toe and went absolutely after you from minute 1. I think it was probably our best performance, but yeah, we couldn't get there. Obviously, come over us in the end.
We changed our system after 15 minutes. We were getting pummeled, and after 5 minutes, Filter and Jody are talking about changing system. I went, fucking settle down, 5 minutes. And after 15, I was like, yeah, you might want to fucking do it now.
Well, we played them Thursday night, same thing. It's, you know, just absolutely flew out of the blocks and just in our face, and was like, holy shit, we're still in warm-up mode, you know. So, yeah, I was the same. You know, we're going to have to change things here and, you know, just settle. Let's see if we can, you know, just get through the heat and come out the other side. But, yeah, they were good. Yeah, good.